The Interpretation of Dreams. The Interpretation of Dreams was a book written by the famous psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud and published in 1899. The Interpretation of Dreams is the classic text on dream analysis and interpretation. Freud said that, the interpretation of dreams is the royal road to a knowledge of the unconscious activities of the mind. He meant that because dreams are such an unconscious activity, they give an almost direct insight into the workings of the unconscious mind. Dream analysis is the process of evaluating and interpreting dreams to know their meaning. It is a technique, in which the content of dreams is interpreted to reveal underlying motivations or symbolic meanings and representations. Wish fulfillment. Wish fulfillment is the satisfaction of a desire through an involuntary thought process. Our dreams are nothing more than wishes that we are looking to fulfill in our waking lives. Freud believed that the content of dreams is related to wish fulfillment and suggested that dreams have two types of content: manifest content and latent content. Manifest content. The manifest content is the actual literal subject matter of the dream. Latent content. Latent content is the hidden or disguised meanings of dreams. It represents the wishes and ideas beneath the manifest content of any utterance or other form of communication. Latent content. The hidden meaning of dreams played an important role in Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory. Freud analyzed that the manifest content may be distressing, whereas the latent content is always the fulfillment of a wish. He explains that the process by which the latent content is disguised by the manifest content is via the mechanism of dream distortion. He compares this process to that of censorship, where the mind of the individual works to cover up his or her real desires through the invention of pretense. He describes these two opposing impulses: the urge to express a desire and the effort to censor the expression of that desire, as two psychical forces, which together act as the originators of dream formation in the individual. While one of these forces works to express the wish, the other imposes a censorship on the dream wish and by the censorship distorts its expression. Freud suggests that the ultimate value of dream interpretation to the psychoanalyst may be that it reveals insight into the workings of the unconscious mind. Freud believed that the mind was like an iceberg. Only a very small part of the iceberg is visible above the water. This visible part represents the conscious mind. Unseen under the surface of the water lies the enormous bulk of the iceberg, which represents the unconscious mind. Dreams, therefore, are one way of glimpsing what is hidden from awareness in the unconscious mind. For example, imagine that you have a dream that you are naked in public. The actual storyline of the dream is the manifest content, but Freud would suggest that there is more to the dream than its literal meaning. He might interpret the dream to mean that you fear exposure, that you feel insecure, or that you fear other people will notice your shortcomings. This hidden meaning represents the latent content of the dream. The material and sources of dreams. Freud points out that there are three primary sources from which the material of dreams is constructed. First, dreams always draw material from impressions made during the day before the night in which the dream takes place. He refers to this dream material as the remnants, or remains, of impressions made during the preceding day. Second, dream content can be drawn from what he calls somatic sources, actual physical impressions made upon the sleeper. For instance, a person who goes to bed thirsty may dream that he is drinking a glass of water. Third, Freud asserts, dream content is drawn from childhood experiences that may be long forgotten in the waking mind of the dreamer. Freud insists that while the manifest content of dreams is trivial, their latent psychic meaning is never trivial. He explains this phenomenon as one of psychical displacement, whereby important psychological matter is expressed in the dream by a process of displacement. Freud refers to the mind's process of dream formation as the dream work. The first element of the dream work is the process of condensation. Freud here refers to the phenomenon in dreams by which many ideas may be condensed into a single image. For example, a single character in a dream may, in The form of a composite figure, be identified by the dreamer as representing three different people. The second element of dreams is that of displacement, whereby one element within a dream may stand as a substitute for an idea that it does not literally represent. For example, the figure of a queen in a dream may represent the mother of the dreamer. The third element is that of representation, the phenomenon by which ideas are expressed through a dream in nonverbal ways. One task of the dream analysis is thus to translate dream images into verbalized dream thoughts. Secondary revision. Secondary revision is the process by which the conscious mind of the dreamer intrudes upon the dream thoughts to impose an artificial coherence to the dream. For instance, it sometimes occurs that a dreamer, while still in the midst of a dream, has the thought, "After all, it's only a dream." This process of secondary revision continues after waking, when the dreamer attempts to recall the dream as a coherent narrative. IRMA'S dream. Joseph Breuer was an Austrian physician with whom Freud co-wrote Studies in Hysteria. In the interpretation of dreams, Freud refers to Breuer by the pseudonym Dr. M in describing his appearance in the IRMA dream. Freud had this dream the night after writing down the case history of a patient named Irma to present it to Breuer for further consultation. In the dream, Breuer appears with several colleagues who examine Irma. In this same dream, Breuer appears as a composite figure with one of Freud's brothers. He makes the association between the two that I was out of humor with both of them for rejecting suggestions he had recently made to them. Freud concludes that the dream is in part a wish fulfillment in which he portrays Dr. M. Breuer as an incompetent physician, thus reassuring himself of his own professional competence, which had been put into question, in his waking life, with regard to his only partial success in treating Irma. Amalia Freud was Freud's mother. In the interpretation of dreams, he describes a dream in which one figure, a woman in a kitchen rubbing dough between her hands to make dumplings, evokes associations with his mother. In another dream, from age 7 or 8, he dreamed that his mother had died. In these dreams, his mother is associated with both nourishment and death. Freud's strong childhood attachment to his mother and his corresponding feelings of jealousy toward his father became the basis of his theory of the Oedipus complex, one of the fundamental theories of psychoanalysis. Initial reception. Freud was gravely disappointed by the initial reception of the interpretation of dreams, which was, according to Richie Robertson in an introduction to the 1999 translation, muted but respectful. It sold only 350 copies in the first 6 years of publication. However, as Freud's reputation as the founder of psychoanalysis grew throughout the first decade of the century, over the next 10 years, he revised the book for 8 different editions, adding a preface with each new printing. Without a doubt, The Interpretation of Dreams is an important book. Modern research does not necessarily agree that the primary function of dreams is to reveal the contents of the unconscious. Instead, researchers believe that dreams may serve an important role in the consolidation of memory.